But it is a
I
different
think let's
environment.
talk about that, like the attitude, like towards what happened with the state and how kind of Tencent has been the one company to navigate around, whatever regulations have come about. I mean, that was covered pretty well, I think, towards the end of the book. So,
Yeah, it was covered very well. Like it was covered very in depth, and basically just in 2018, and really my memory of it is like going into the pandemic, the Chinese government just totally got strict about a lot of different areas of the
after the whole
economy,
Jack Ma thing, yeah.
and then of the internet as well. Um, it's just different. What was interesting from her discussion of all the ups and downs with the regulators was just how many times it felt like people were thinking like, okay, this is the end of it. This is the end of the crackdown. And then another shoe would drop. And that was kind of the Chinese tech investing world from like
It started
2020 to
with Tencent,
2022.
pretty much. It started in 2018 with Tencent, where they were kind of banned, the whole gaming thing and
Yeah.
how addicted people had become to games. Then it went into, what was it? I think it was DD after that.
Yeah. And the IPO
When
with Alibaba and Jack Ma.
the anti-IPO, yeah, all that. And then DD had to be, like, they had to go through whole sort of, they had to file with a lot of, there are a lot of other regulatory concerns basically with DD. And yeah, one by one they just went out and just started shopping the online education. That's what I was forgetting. Yeah, the online
Yeah.
education space that they absolutely just torpedoed. Like they just said, yeah, you guys are non-profits, forget about profits, you guys are going to be working for the betterment of the
And
people.
you can't grow, you can't acquire another online education business. That was
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, so just torpedoing an entire industry in literally overnight.
So
I mean,
there's all these articles out there like, is China investable? Hedge funds are back in China, then they're out of China, then they're back, and institutional investors. My approach to it is kind of two things. Like one, you have to know where you're at. Like the government there controls things, so like that's just the way it is. And the way I look at it, I got this from learning from Monish. One time he talked about like layering on filters to different countries. So like in Turkey, there's a lot of inflation. So if you invest in Turkey, you better be in businesses that can handle inflation. With China, there's a lot of government regulation of the economy. So if you're going to invest there, you better have that filter on the investment that the investment has to pass through, which is, for me, it's like, is the Chinese government going to like this business? Is this business doing things and growing in different business lines that are on brand, on track with what the government wants out of its people, out of its country, out of its businesses? And I think if you can layer on that filter, for me, it is investable. It is, but at the same time, it can get uncomfortable. So for me, it's always an asset allocation decision. Um, but that's how I think about investing in China.
so like it doesn't kind of put you off when you see that that the government has taken up like golden shares, like say a 1% stake in the company. Do you see it as more of a positive thing, or do you see it as more like they're working with the company now, they have money invested, or
I,
do you
I've
think
been
that they'll kill the
I've
golden goose?
I've
Yeah.
been tempted to think about those things as positive, but to me, that's just been like self deluding myself when I've owned those businesses. Um, I think more so, I shouldn't, like, I don't have an opinion about it. Like I'm not able to judge whether it's good or bad for the future of those businesses. I'm
Right.
just basically trying to have the approach of like, I'm not surprised by it. I'm not disappointed by it. I'm not excited by it. It's just their system. So it is what it is. And could that go wrong for some companies I invest in? Could totally go wrong. Um, if like the leader of the company goes against what the track is that the government wants, then you got a big problem. And the ability to predict that is tough. So for me, it just always comes back to, it is investable, especially when the prices are really cheap and the rest of the world doesn't want to be there, like the fall of 2022. But it's always an asset allocation issue because I just want to be comfortable having above a certain point there, and that changes from time to time. But that's kind of that's what makes it investable for me. It's just having that asset allocation decision. But I totally think it's investable. Karan, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal this week about, despite everything that's going on with China and the U.S. and balloons and all that kind of stuff, there's a bunch of huge American companies doubling down in China. McDonald's, Starbucks, and they mentioned some other businesses in this Wall Street Journal article about these American businesses are going, yeah, there's a lot going on in the world, but there's customers in China that want what we sell. We're going in. And so
And the disclosures are improving, the regulations are improving, everything's improving. I mean, there are going to be issues always, but I see it as every market is evolving. Like we are seeing with the Hong Kong exchange, they have really just started amping up the equivalent of like 401ks. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like the beginning of the capital markets in Hong Kong in a way, for them to really become more prominent.
Yeah, and from my perspective, from where I sit over here, I definitely see the strife between China and the U.S., the way they feel about us sometimes, the way we feel about them sometimes, and the issues we have with each other. And at the same time, our two economies are so intertwined at this point, it's really hard to see a breaking up of that, but I can see it. So for me, there's like this 10, 15% chance on the table that things go really bad. But the vast majority of the time, or the outcomes of this play, if you will, I think things will go fine and the countries will be able to do business with each other. But again, it brings it back to that's a capital allocation bet size